Hi, and welcome to this DCP web tutorial. In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to use layers, or give you the good understanding of how layers work in GIMP 2.1. So, the first thing we need to do is grab some images. So let's open up our web browser, and I'm going to give you links to all of these images. I found these images already, and we're going to use this astronaut. So we'll click free download here, and then click the download button here. And we're going to download it at this resolution here, right? 469 kilobyte file. And then we want another image, which is this like galaxy Milky Way, and we'll download at the same resolution here. Click download. So we've got two pictures now, and we want this picture here as well. And I'll put a link to all of these images where you can download them from in the YouTube description. So we're going to download this version here, and finally we'll grab this picture here, which is like this rocket ship. We'll click free download, and then we'll download this one as well. So we've got 4 images in total, these 4 pictures, and we'll open up this empty folder and we'll just drag them into this empty folder. Let's get that last one in here. So we've got the 4 pictures. We can close down the web browser, and I'll keep a note of those links and add them to the YouTube description so you can download them as well. And we'll open up GIMP. So today we're going to look at layers. I did a tutorial on this on the older version of GIMP, but I thought I'll do a new update version and just show you some more techniques and tools, and we'll just do we'll have a little bit of fun. Let's have some fun, right? So we drag this background. So we've got the background, this Cosmos background. That's the first layer we want to drag into GIMP. So we just drag that into GIMP here. We've got the background now, nice and simple. And the next thing we'll do is we'll work on this astronaut. So we'll drag the astronaut into GIMP as well, and that will get added to the layer here. So you can see automatically we've got 2 layers now. So we're talking about layers. So we'll go to Windows, Dockable Dialogues, and we're looking at this option here called layers. And as default, it should be loaded already. And you can see the astronaut sits on top of the background, and the astronaut is quite big. So it's covering the whole background, original background image. So the layer that is actually active is highlighted with this white border. Can you see? So when I click on the astronaut, it's got a white border here on this particular layer. And when I click on the background, that will have a white border. So what I want you to do is click on the astronaut, and it will go white with a white border around it, because we want to resize it. It's too big. So we'll click on the resize tool here, scale tool. We'll click on that, and then we'll click on the picture, and then we need to hold down the control key and use our mouse wheel and just to zoom in and out. So you can hold down the control key on your keyboard, use the mouse wheel to zoom in and out a little bit. We want to be able to see the whole image, and then we hold down the shift key and click in this top left hand corner and drag. And then we want to work out roughly how big. We don't want the astronaut to be too small. We want the astronaut to be about, let's say this big, right? Something like this. And we'll click scale. Then we can click on the move tool, and we'll move that astronaut into the center of the screen. So we can still see there's a bit of a problem. It's nothing major. And we can hold down the middle mouse button. When we hold down the middle mouse, so we've got a left click, a right click mouse button, and then the actual mouse wheel on most computers will be a button as well. So you can use the mouse wheel to move up and down and stuff, but you can also click on that mouse wheel to move the canvas around, right? So we call this panning the canvas, to pan it around. So all I'm doing is trying to get it in the center here. Then when I hold down the control key and use the mouse wheel, it will zoom in and out, and we can just get it nice and centered like this. So what's wrong with this picture right now? The astronaut's background is all black, right? We want to get rid of that black so that these stars and stuff will show through behind the astronaut. So to do that, there's quite a few different ways to do this, but I'm going to show you the super quick, simple way. We're kind of lucky that an astronaut is like mainly white color, and then the background is black. So we can use the magic wand tool or the fuzzy select tool. We'll click on that fuzzy select tool. We'll make sure this top layer is selected here, and then we'll click in the background here where it's black, and then we'll just press Control X, which is the equivalent of doing cut here, right? Control X. So I just use the shortcut Control X, and that will get rid of most of that problem with that background, that black background. and then we want to click here. Can you see where between his arm and his leg, it's supposed to see through here as well, right? So we'll click here and cut this, and then we'll click here and cut this as well. So that's supposed to be see-through, I think, as well. I'm not sure if this is. What does that look like? No, I think that's not supposed to be see-through. If you click something and you cut it and you don't want it to be see-through, just press Ctrl Z to undo that last step, which is like edit, undo here, right? Now you can still see this little part is selected, so we go to select none. So now nothing is selected. We'll hold down the Control key and use our mouse wheel to zoom back out again, and then we use the middle mouse to just pan it to the center. Let's get it something like this, right? So we've got the astronaut here. It's all cut out, nice and looking good. And we'll go back to our tools or our images, and we can either drag the moon or the rocket ship. So I think we'll deal with the moon object first. So let's drag that into GIMP, and that will have its own layer. Can you see? It's got a layer now. It's sitting at the top. Whenever you drag into the canvas, it will always move the image to the top here. And that's where we want it to be at the moment, because we're working with that particular picture. Now, with this image, we need to add an alpha channel so it becomes transparent. So we're going to right click and add an alpha channel. And nothing really happens, right? But if you used your magic wand tool, so we click the magic wand tool and we click on this black background, then we press Ctrl X to cut, then you'll see now it's all transparent behind, right? And we're going to use the rectangle tool here. In fact, we'll do select none first, and we'll make sure this top layer is still selected. Then we'll use the rectangle select tool, and we're going to drag around this moon like this, something like this. Make sure there's a nice gap around it, yeah? But we don't need all of this gap around here, so we're going to get rid of all of this spacing here. We just want a box around the moon like this, and we'll go to layers and crop selection, and that's it. Now we can use the move tool. We'll click on this move tool and we'll move the moon to this bottom left hand side down here somewhere, something like this. Okay, now we want to let's do select none. Click select none, yeah, here. That will get rid of that selection up here. Now what else do we have in here? We've got this rocket ship. Let's drag the rocket ship into GIMP as well, and then that will sit on the top layer here, you see, right here. And we want to get rid of this blue background now, because we want the rocket ship to, you know, the background to show through all of our space scene and stuff. We want that to all show through. So there's quite a few different ways to remove this background, but I'm going to show you a quick, nice, simple way. It won't be the most elegant, but it won't be most pixel perfect, let's say, but it's a quick way to do it. So we'll use that technique because we want to keep this tutorial short. But the first thing we want to do is really resize this. So we'll click on the resize tool here, the scale tool, and we'll click on this spaceship or this rocket ship, and we'll hold down the control key. Sorry, we'll hold down the shift key, and we'll left click here and drag down, and we want the rocket ship to be roughly this sort of size, right? Something like this. And holding down the shift key, when you hold down the shift key, basically it will stop it from stretching and squashing, right? So when you hold down the shift, it will constrain the image and constrain it on its aspect ratio. So something around this sort of size is what you want it to be, yeah? Something like this. And then we'll click scale. So there's our image. We'll select the move tool, click on the picture and move it to the center, somewhere around here. And then we'll hold down the control key and use the mouse wheel to zoom in a little bit so we can see it a bit bigger. Then we're going to click on the foreground select tool, this one here, foreground select tool. And just make sure in the modes replace current is selected, this first option here, this option. And then we're going to click at the top of the ship, and we're just going to draw these dots around it, these lines, right, to what we want to keep. Just make sure you don't go over the spaceship itself, and we'll just click around it like this. Get close but not too close, something like this will be good. And then when you get to the end, you want to join it, and when you get the join, it will go like this orange color, right? Can you see the dots? And we're going to join it like this. That's it, that's the selection. And now we'll hit the enter key, and all of this blue stuff is going to get removed, and we're going to keep everything inside this rocket ship. But we don't want to keep everything, so we're going to tell the software roughly what we want to keep. We want to give it a rough selection, we can call it. So we're going to zoom in a little bit more, and we use the middle mouse wheel to just center it out a little bit. And we need to make sure white is selected at the top here, yeah? White. So just click on it and just move your mouse cursor to the top left hand corner, or set it all to F's here, and then click OK. And that'll be white. And then we want our paintbrush to be, we don't want it too big, right? We don't want it big like this big circle. We want it to be quite small, something like maybe a little bit bigger, something like this sort of size. And then we're just gonna, what you got to be careful is you don't want to draw off of the spaceship, yeah? You don't want to do that. So just press Ctrl Z if you've done that. And we want to stay within the realms of the spaceship, inside of it, this rocket ship. And we're just going to draw roughly, and just don't go outside of the flames. You want to stay within inside of the flames, and just draw back up here. You can get close to the edge, but you don't need to get too close. Something like this. That's it. And then all we'll do is click on the select here. That's going to get rid of most of that background. And then what we'll do is press Control X. So you do edit, cut. And then we'll do a new layer. So we'll click new, create new layer here. And it'll be a transparent layer, and we'll click OK. And now that layer sits at the top, and then we're going to press Control V, or go to edit, paste, like this. And then we'll click this green anchor here. And that's it. Now all we need to do is right click on this layer here. So we'll right click on it and we'll delete it. Now we've got the spaceship there, right? So let's zoom out a little bit so we can see our canvas a bit clearer. We'll click on this top layer, which is the spaceship, and we'll click on the move tool, right? Now let's click on the rotate tool. Rotate, we'll click on the spaceship, and we want to rotate it around this sort of direction, something like this. And then we'll click rotate here, and then we'll drag that spaceship. So we'll click the move tool, this one here, and we'll drag it to something like over here. And last of all, we want to move the layer down 2 steps, so it's behind the astronaut. Yeah, so we've got the, we should really, you know, in all truth, we should really label these layers. We should double click on them and call this rocket, call this one, just double click and call it background. You don't have to do this. Now you know that's the background, now you know that's the rocket. We just call this one spaceman, and then this top one we'll call it planet. Now it's easy to understand what they are, right? So if you want the planet to sit in front of the this space dude, you just drag it underneath the space guy. Then when you click on the move tool and move the space guy, he'll sit in front of the planet, right? But if you drag the planet above the space guy, then the planet will overlap him. We don't really want that, right? So we want to drag the planet down one, and we want this space guy to sit at the very top, the planet below, and then the rocket ship at the very bottom. Then we'll click on the space guy, we'll move him a little bit, and in fact we'll move this planet so it sits behind the space guy, something like this here. So that's it, that's how layers work. We've managed to actually use quite a few other tools to remove backgrounds. We used the fuzzy select tool, and we even used the foreground select tool to remove the backgrounds from those images quite quickly. We haven't done too bad a job, to be honest. It's not too bad, is it? So let's have a little think. Let's just go to File, Save As, and on my desktop I'll go to this folder here, and let's save this as what should we call it? Let's call it Space Layers -01. We'll save it as Space Layers -01. Click Save, and then we're going to save it one more time because we're going to do a few other little extras, and we'll call it version 2 now. So we've got the original version, which is just our basic version, and then we'll click Save, and we're going to create a second version. So when we click save, let's have a little bit of fun. Let's have a little experiment here. So what we'll do is we'll click on this planet layer. We know what it is exactly now, and we're going to right click on it and duplicate it. Now we've got two planets here, right? Planet, the top one and the bottom one. We'll click on this bottom one right here, and then we'll go to filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and then we're going to grow this blur to something like this. So now it looks like it's got this nice blur around the planet, right? This haze or whatever you want to call it. And we'll click OK. Next thing we'll do is, what else can we do? Yeah, let's click on this background layer at the bottom, and we're going to right click on that one and duplicate it. So we've got two copies of this background. The bottom one, we're going to hide it for now. So we'll click this icon to hide that layer, and we'll click on the one just above it, this one here, and we'll go to filter, and we'll go to lights and shadow, and we'll click on lens flare here, and then we'll click on this icon here, this pick coordinates from image. We'll click on that once, and you know it's been selected because when you move your mouse off of it, it will go black, right, like this. And then we'll click on this image somewhere, and we'll create this lens flare. You can see it goes all the way down here, the lens flare, and the closer you click it, you can have it right behind this guy, this astronaut. You can have it up in the corner here. I think it looks alright here, like this. You can just hold down the mouse wheel. You can actually hold it down with, you can left click and just hold it down. But I think it's best up here, going this direction. It's kind of opposite, like the content's going this way and then the lens flare is going this way. It's up to you. Play around with it. Feel free. I'm going to click OK, and then we will go back to filter. Let's add something else. Let's add a supernova. We'll click that. We'll click on this button here as well again, and we'll click up here somewhere, right in the top corner. So I want it to kind of be like this rocket ship is going to some planet in the far distance, right? And then the radius, we will expand it a bit, and we'll increase the number of spokes, maybe something like this. You can do as many as you like. You can have lots or very few. We'll have a few here. So it's down to your own preference. And then on the colors, we'll click that, and then we'll make it, I want it to be like a, quite like a purple sort of color, right? Something like that. And we'll click OK. And then the last thing in here is you can play around with the randomization of this color. So you can just go crazy, you can experiment, do what you want. I'm going to, normally what I do is just click on this up arrow here and just increment it one by one, and then find like something that I like. So maybe something around 10. Yeah, so it's just a slight variation in color. It's up to you. You can play around with that. Maybe make the radius a little bit less. You can make it even more if you like, but we still, I don't want it to be too much. I don't want it to overpower the image too much. Something like this, and maybe we'll move it just off screen, right? It can be something like this. You can just about see it here. Have a play around, experiment, and we'll click OK. I don't know what this randomized seed is. I think that's just like some random thing. So you might get something good out of that. Got to play around with these tools sometimes and see what works. I think this is just like a random generator. A random. You just click new seed, right? And it'll just randomly pick and just give you some complete different variations. I'm going to use this one. Okay. So what else can we do? I think we'll try one more thing. It may work or may not. We'll click on the spaceman. We'll duplicate that layer. So we're going to right click on it. We'll do one more thing and we'll duplicate that layer. So now we've got this space dude, two copies. We'll click on the bottom version of him or her, the space person. Right here it says spaceman, right? And we'll go filter, blur, and then we do, let's try a linear motion blur. So let's imagine he's moving from bottom. He's kind of moving at that sort of angle, right? You can see this line is like this angle, so that'll be sort of like this angle here. And then let's see what happens. Maybe it needs to be the other way, so maybe it needs to be like here. Don't really like that, to be honest. Yeah, so if you don't like something, just click cancel. Nice and simple. It's not looking too good, so let's try Gaussian blur and see if that works a bit better. Yeah, maybe something like that. We can have him sort of glowing a little bit, right? Something like that. We'll click OK. We'll go to File, Save. We'll go to File, and we will go to Export As, and we'll click here, and we'll scroll down and click JPEG and click Export, and we'll leave it at 90. Let's leave it at 90 compression. Click Export, and then what we'll do is we'll go back to, this is the folder, right? And we'll take the first version and we'll drag that into GIMP up here. In fact, we'll have to open it. We'll have to go File, Open, and then we want this one here, the first version. We'll open that. So this is the original version, and we'll go File, and let's export that as well. Export as, and it'll be called version 1 already, and it's a JPEG file. We just click Export. Now we can close down GIMP, and this is what we've created, right? So we had these original images and the spaceman over here, and then we created this version using layers, and then we've got this version here as well using layers. So that's how we use layers in GIMP. It's just a real rudimentary example, but you can see how we're stacking the elements on top of each other, how we had the background and we put the spaceman, and then had the moon behind it, and then we had this rocket ship, and then the moon and the space guy had duplicate layers that sit right behind them in the layer stack, but then we used our Gaussian blur to add this blur effect right around this space guy and this moon planet, and then we even added this lens flare and this supernova thing in the corner. So that's real good explanation of how layers work. Now you can go and experiment with any images. You can even just go and take real photographs, and you can remove things or add things, and you can go and play around with GIMP. You can see it's quite powerful. Although this is quite a basic example, you can see how we can stack those layers. Think of layers like tracing paper a bit, right? That's how I think of it. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that tutorial. That was good fun. I enjoyed that one, and I look forward to seeing you on the next DCP web tutorial.